Kyle Busch's sponsorship saga was one of the year's most unpleasant storylines, because of which Joe Gibbs Racing fired the two-time Cup Series champion when his key sponsor pulled out. Now it seems like Denny Hamlin could see something similar. So viewers, stay stuck as we discuss further what FedEx says about its sponsorship. It has been less than 2 months since the last Cup season began, and this week saw the release of a report on the delivery company's financial performance. And if fans of the number 11 car weren't already worried about the driver's long-term relationship with FedEx and JGR lasting past 2023, they are now. As a whole, the 2022 Cup Series season will be remembered by Denny Hamlin and his followers, although not necessarily for the right reasons. 2 victories in Richmond and Charlotte were certainly positive outcomes, but for the first time in his career, he was disqualified at Pocono. Or when William Byron crashed the JGR car during the playoffs at Texas while there was a caution. NASCAR officials didn't spot it for whatever reason, so they didn't put the number 11 car back in second place and didn't penalize the HMS car until days later. At Martinsville, Hamlin did one last lap around the short track, thinking he had a good chance of making it to the Championship 4 race a week later in Phoenix and getting another chance to win that elusive title. This was probably the most painful moment of his career. Then, Ross Chastain made a move that went viral and shocked everyone who saw it. So you can imagine how shocked the driver was when that move took him out of the running for the title. The driver didn't get bad news after the season ended, but his fans did. The most recent developments involving FedEx bring into question whether or not Denny Hamlin will continue his career in NASCAR. 3-time winner of the Daytona 500, Denny Hamlin is widely regarded as one of the most successful drivers in the history of the NASCAR Cup Series. Over the course of 18 years, while racing for Joe Gibbs Racing in the number 11 Toyota Camry, Hamlin amassed a total of 48 Cup victories, 312 top 10 finishes, and 36 pole positions. There are fewer than 2 months until the beginning of the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series season. Recently, a fresh revelation came out about the revenues of Denny Hamlin's longtime sponsor FedEx, and it was mentioned that his future with Joe Gibbs Racing is doubtful. It is possible that he will find himself in the same position that his former teammate Kyle Busch did during the 2022 season. And if you find our video interesting, then do subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Hamlin has had a relationship with FedEx, which is one of the largest and most essential courier businesses, as his primary sponsor for a number of years. FedEx reported on Tuesday that its quarterly profit and revenues were lower than in the same period a year ago. The company also issued a warning about ongoing reduced demand and stated that their aggressive cost-cutting measures were easing the hit. FedEx is forced to rely on aggressive cost-cutting measures that were softening the blow, as stated on CNBC.com. As a result of the company's quarterly earnings and sales that fell from a year ago, FedEx has no choice but to rely on these aggressive cost-cutting measures. FedEx has announced that it will cut an additional $1 billion in costs for 2023. Joe Gibbs Racing will be in a difficult position if the company is unable to renew Hamlin's contract because they have not been successful in attracting sponsors for him. CFO Mike Lenz stated the following in an earnings release: "An unbroken focus on promptly implementing cost reductions in order to boost profitability is maintained by all of their teams. They are increasing our progress on cost changes as they look ahead to the second half of their fiscal year, which will help to mitigate the sustained downturn in volume across the globe." If FedEx could not extend Denny Hamlin's contract, he might decide to retire. Denny Hamlin is aware that he has reached the conclusion of his time in the racing industry. During an appearance on the popular Dale Jr. Download podcast, the 42-year-old driver discussed his plans for the end of his career and provided an interesting response when Dale Earnhardt Jr. asked him whether he would leave Joe Gibbs Racing and finish his career driving for his own team in the future. Denny Hamlin said,
Not if FedEx extends. I think that I would like to retire at Gibbs with FedEx because it's so unique to have a sponsor that has been part of the sport as long as they have and backed me as long as they have.
Sure.
There's just no way I could leave them. I mean, maybe at that point, then I just run 1 or 2 races or something with them. I wouldn't win my last race probably, but I would like to retire at Gibbs with FedEx. But if things change, then things change, and then you got to reevaluate.
Even for Denny Hamlin, whose career has been full of fights, the 2022 season has been full of trouble. In April, he was sent to sensitivity training for retweeting a racist meme. In July, he was the first racer since 1960 to have a win taken away during a post-race inspection. More recently, he has been one of NASCAR's most vocal critics on the new next-generation car's safety concerns, even calling for new leadership in the sport earlier this month. Hamlin has been racing in the Cup Series for almost 20 years. He is known for being rude and making enemies, which he admits hurts his popularity with fans. On the track, it hasn't been the smoothest season either, even though he has won twice this year. Hamlin's average finish of 16.7 is his worst since he had a bad season in 2013. He also has the fewest top 10 finishes among Joe Gibbs Racing team drivers, many of whom have also had bad years. Yet Hamlin's performances have steadily gotten better as the season has gone on. A string of 5 top 10s and 3 top 5s in 6 playoff races has put him in a position to possibly win his first Cup Series championship. For the most basic point of view, Hamlin is tied for 16th all-time with 48 Cup Series wins, and he is second among non-champions behind Junior Johnson, who has 50 wins. Johnson, who later became a team owner and sold pork products, was a folk hero when he raced in NASCAR's early days. But besides wins, Hamlin's record is much better than Johnson's in terms of top 5 finishes and top 10 finishes and average finishes. Also, Johnson ran all of his races before 1972, when the modern era of the Cup Series began. Carl Edwards is the driver with the best average finish among non-champions who have run at least 200 races in the modern era. Hamlin has a better average finish than Carl Edwards. Hamlin could be the best driver who never won a title. It's kind of funny that Hamlin might finally be able to get rid of that label soon. In 2009, he finished 5th, but beat JGR teammates Kyle Busch and Joey Logano by 22 points to finish. In 2010, he led the standings going into the final race, but lost the championship to Jimmy Johnson. And in either 2019, 2020, or 2021, Hamlin lost in the championship for 3 straight years, despite having the best finish, 46, most wins, 15, and most top 5 finishes, 56. Compared to those results, Hamlin's numbers for 2022, and 88 finish, 2 wins, and 8 top 5 finishes in 32 races, are pretty boring. But the way his season is going, the way NASCAR's playoffs work, and the fact that there isn't a dominant alternative in the first season of the next generation car make it very likely that Hamlin will win his first championship. It could also be Hamlin's last good chance to get out of the club of the best drivers who never win. At age 41, he has reached the point in his career when a driver's performance tends to drop off a cliff. Hamlin and Earnhardt also talked about this research earlier this year. His future is not as a driver, but as a team owner. The 2311 racing team, which he and Michael Jordan started in 2020, has added Bubba Wallace and will soon add Tyler Reddick to its list of up-and-coming drivers. Reddick's departure from Richard Childress Racing couldn't have been more like a typical Hamlin move. So if there was ever a time for Hamlin to finally win a championship, it's this season, and even though it's been messy, full of drama, and not perfect. On February 19, 2023, Denny Hamlin will compete again in the Cup Series at the Daytona International Speedway. The event will take place in Florida. What do you think will be the scenario after the 2023 season? Tell us in the comments below. That's all for today. Hope you enjoyed it, so don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see more of our videos on NASCAR updates.